welcome to Waking Up Your Senses. It's an episode that I'm very happy to speak about. I've kind of postponed it for a bit, but I'm glad I've had some time to deal with it now. Many of us are familiar with the five senses as in how we interpret our physical reality, right? To taste, to touch, to smell, to see, and to hear. So what I'm going to be discussing today is what people might call your supernatural abilities, what I like to call your innate natural abilities. And I feel that now more than ever, more people are waking up to these psychic senses, right? And for me, it's like seeing beyond the veil. So there's a physical reality that we interpret through our senses, like I said, through taste and seeing and smelling and all of that. And so we are taking it a bit further when we talk about your psychic senses. What we're saying is we are lifting the veil of the physical reality and we're looking beyond it, right? We're looking at more of like a cosmic self, something that's more of a universal consciousness, right? And you're looking at the bigger picture is what I would like to call it. So we have, clairvoyance, right, to see, clairaudient, to hear, clairgustance, to taste, right? Clairaliens to smell, and Clair, by the way, in French means clear. And I thought that was really important to touch upon because clear, let's say clairvoyance, clear vision, right? You are seeing clearly now. So you're seeing beyond the physical reality and you're seeing clearly now. And I thought that was really voyance, right? To see, clear vision. And sometimes when I say to see, it's to see as well, right? With your third eye. And decalcifying of the pineal gland, right? So so with that being said, I thought we could just jump into your five senses and waking up your five senses, being aware of it and kind of broadening your conscious awareness to these innate natural abilities that you have. Now, before I get through them, some people might say, well, Pam, are some people, and I get this question quite a bit, are some people more inclined to be more clairvoyant, to see things beyond the physical reality and veil, than they are clairaudient? And the best way that I can describe that is do what comes most natural to you. So what comes most natural to you, if you're somebody who learns visually, you may be more clairvoyant, right? You can see spirit guides, you can see into other realms, your third eye is opening and all that thing. I'm not saying that because you're more visual, you won't be able to wake up the other senses. I'm not saying that. You can, but I'm saying what's going to come natural to you first is going to flow to you first. And the second thing I would like to say is these senses are how we interpret the basis and the foundation of our reality, right? So we are taking data and information and we're channeling that through and we're making sense of like the world and how we interpret it, right? So see it as like sensory data interpreters, okay? So that's how we're going to see it. So now we're going to go through the five senses. I'm just going to briefly touch upon them, and I hope that by discussing this and bringing it out more to the forefront, more people can recognize that they have these natural abilities and that these gifts and talents, and hopefully they can utilize it in a way to benefit humanity and the world, and spread healing energy, loving energy, and being really aligned with your purpose and your calling. So now, instead of saying the clairvoyance and clairaudient and all that, I just like to say to see, right? So I say to see, to smell, to taste, to hear, to touch. My nephew does that when he wants to, when he goes through the plants and he takes the soil out of the plants, he does this before and we're like, oh no, he's going to go for the soil, right? So, so I was going to say hi to my nephew. So, okay. So with clairvoyant, right, the ability to see. This is the ability to see, like, for example, I'm giving you examples. And again, I would love to hear and see in the comments how you interpret data through these senses and how you see beyond the veil. So clairvoyant is the ability to see, right? And this could also mean, like, for example, if your third eye is opening, you're kind of seeing beyond. In philosophy class, there was this term, I can't remember which philosopher said it, but He said, seeing beyond the veil of ignorance. And I thought, that's really neat. And it was like, his way was like there was a sheet, right, that was draped on, and you didn't know anybody, and you kind of saw facts. But what I would like to see it as, in this example, is like there's a veil or a sheet of reality, and you're lifting that sheet of reality off. So now all of a sudden, you may be out in public, and maybe you're an empath, you're somebody who's super compassionate, and you could see you can see somebody's anger, you can see somebody's personal blockages, and maybe you're seeing a vision of where in that person's timeline or in their past that they created that for themselves, right? So, I mean, then that's really big. There are people who can, I was just looking at one of these books here by Edgar Mitchell. He was a former astronaut of the US, and I think he was in engineering, so he has a very mechanical, mathematical kind of mind, and he's very logical, right? And so in one of his books, The Way of the Explorer, he has some really neat examples. If you're somebody who's like scientific minded and you want to go into like the nitty gritty details of testing this, so to speak, then there are really great examples of there how, you know, he came across certain healers, people who could see certain illnesses in people's bodies and diagnose it prior to the traditional form of diagnosis with the doctor, and ability to reverse those conditions, which I thought, it blows your mind, and it blows his mind as well. Another great book too is The Autobiography of a Yogi. There's really strong examples there, and what I appreciate was in that book was the marriage between the East and the West, the scientific kind of mind and the spiritual mind, and they kind of converse, together. In addition to that, it's also respecting having a reverence for the non-physical, right? Seeing beyond that and kind of following your intuition and your gut. So that was an example of clairvoyance. There are people who can see spirit guides. There are people who can see other entities, other energies, other star beings, ETs, whatever you want to call it, interdimensional travelers. So that would be an example of clairvoyance, and through the books that I've also said as well. So the other one, to the smell one, right? So to smell, right? The scent. I would say picture if you're in your grand's house and, and you have a fond memory of a childhood scent, be it pastries or baking or a fire. That's the kind of scent that I'm talking about. So for example, people who may be deceased, excuse me, people who may be deceased, there may be maybe a perfume that they wore, right? And you can smell that around you, but you may not have the voyance to see it, but you have the smell capability, again, seeing beyond this physical reality and be like, oh, wow, okay, grandma's here and that was her perfume, right? So that's an example of to smell. To taste is an interesting one. This one I've kind of played with a bit. I mean, again, as you evolve, these things will grow and they will come naturally to you. So just own these gifts, right? And just own yourself for having this, and give yourself, pat on the back, seriously, for starting to awaken and waking up these senses, right? These extra sensory perceptors that have been there. So, which one was I on? I was on to taste, right? So to taste, yeah, some people can it's interesting. So they can taste different, in the autobiography of a yogi, they talk about being fed through the astral realm. It's really neat. I know people might think it's out there and they're like, oh, okay, whatever, right? But these yogis, from my observation, have really cleansed their physical palate, so to speak, right? And so their senses are really refined. And because it's refined, and they do these chants and they do these mantras and they do spiritual cleansings or purification or whatever you want to call it, but they do those things to get into alignment, right, with source or God or infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, and through those means they open their capabilities. Okay, my other favorite one was to hear, right? There's my ear. So to hear, clairaudient, is to, again, using your extrasensory perceptions, and perceiving what's beyond, taking that veil off, right? So that can be the ability, and I'll just say an example here, where you can hear loved ones, right? I know when my dad passed away, that was like I would hear Hindi because that was his native language, and mine as well. And then I, learned English when I was born in Canada. But so I could hear Hindi, right? And sometimes it's interesting because different beings, different guides, they have different languages. But I feel like what connects all languages is the heart. And so that's why I call it telepathy, because for me, you're communicating with the cosmos through the beating of your heart and through the beating of another individual's heart. And so heart communication, one heart to another, that's why you can feel compassion towards another individual or being, because the heart has a different kind of language. It doesn't need the words of the mind to interpret it, right? At times, it just understands. It's from a feeling standpoint. So clairsentient, to feel, right? People can feel other entities, they can feel other energies, they know someone's around, they have that feeling of, okay, I know there's someone else in this room and I have this feeling of being watched, right? Not in a scary kind of way, but they know that there's another type of form of awareness or consciousness in the room other than themselves and other than, let's say, any other physical beings that they could see, right? So that gift and ability is great for, like, even if you're at parties, right? And you just know that maybe you meet somebody and you're like, wow, there's an instant kind of connection there. There's something there, right? I'm not going to put a definition on what that is, right? If it's positive or negative or anything like that. But sometimes we feel like a connection with somebody, and in this case, something positive, and we want to interact, right, with that individual. There are also people who, I'm just going to go back to voyage, clairvoyance, to see. People who can see auras, right? Are you somebody who can see auras? Do you see different vibrations around people? What colors are they, right? Do you see patterns? Because I was like a former analyst, right? So what patterns do you see? Are all red aura beings a certain way? Are all orange ones a certain way? Speaking of clairvoyance, a lot of the ascended masters and yogis and individuals, right, who would own their spiritual craft and their alignment, would see, with the yogis, they saw chakras, right? The spinning wheels. Chakra means a wheel. So by seeing these through meditation and through the thought processes, they were able to basically see different channels, right? So that's really brilliant. And a lot of scientists and esoteric information brought in by West and East have embraced these abilities and have incorporated it into their work, be it your art, be it communication or scientific community or things like that. They basically have looked at kind of like a universal law or oneness and how they're basically interpreting how the cosmos have come together. So I'm somebody very much to be like, go have fun with these extras, ESP they call it, but have fun with your five senses, right? Waking up your five senses. Experiment with it. Don't be afraid with it, right? Approach it with a sense of curiosity. So, and playfulness. And what does it mean to you? And test it on yourself. And here's the thing when I say test on yourself, I'm not saying be critical on yourself, right? I'm saying have fun with it and be like, what is it that this ability is teaching me? And how can I own it to be a better person or provide, wellness and well-being to the cosmos and here on Earth and everything like that. So those are my quick kind of general overviews of what your five senses are. And to touch are different things. Like, I wanted to say, I try not to get caught up too much in the definitions of things. I know that they're there and they help. I just allow myself to experience as a channel what cosmic goodness is being brought to me, right? And I do my own meditations and my spiritual practice to be in alignment with that cosmic force. And it is what it is for you as well. So those are your five senses. I hope you enjoy that. I hope you enjoy this talk. I would love to hear more about how you interpret beyond the veil. What comes up for you? Is it clairvoyance, clairaudient, clairsentient? And what are these kind of gifts? How do they mean for you? And I think there's a lot more out there. People don't talk about it, and I'm encouraging you to talk about it, because usually when I do express to people that, I can see different individuals or energies and things like that, and there's a sense of, or I can feel the energies more. There's a sense of curiosity there. So I encourage you, I implore you to explore your curiosity. Bye.